Hello, my name is Kay. Welcome to ArtBookNook. Here I love to share my collection of art and craft books. In this video, we're going to explore the latest book from David Bellamy, Watercolour and Beyond. Including this book, can you believe that David has published 21 books in total and created 8 DVDs with APV films, while also teaching painting courses around the world and serving as a consultant for the Leisure Painter magazine. His watercolours are held in many private collections, including those of Sir Chris Bonington, Bill Bryson, Sir David Attenborough and Chris Packham. Quite a pedigree, don't you think? David says, in this book you'll discover a world of inspiration beyond pure watercolour, with over 60 original approaches and exercises. He aims to illustrate ways in which you can make your watercolours glow with excitement, offering you new methods of working and at the same time make the whole experience great fun. If you hear any strange noises in the background during this review, I do apologise. It's my little water terrier Tinker. Unfortunately, he's hurt his foot and he's having to wear a cone. He's not very happy about it. As you can see from these 2 content pages, this book is absolutely jam-packed with information. So I've decided to split this review into 4 parts so as not to overload you, with this part being part 1, Foundations, Exploring Watercolour, and which will cover washes, monochromes, texture, harmonious colours, wet in wet, colour mixing on the paper, glazing, sketching and reference material, working outside on location, composition and using masking fluid. And that's just the first part, a quarter, so you can see how much information is contained in this incredible book. So let's crack on, shall we? Let's take a look at part 1. In the introduction, David explains that his aim with this book is to show you ways to make your watercolours truly come alive, offering fresh methods of working and imaginative uses for familiar materials, all while keeping the process fun. We begin by looking at traditional approaches to painting landscapes in watercolour before moving on to more adventurous techniques and materials. Along the way, we'll explore how to combine these methods effectively, opening up new possibilities for your own painting style. Many artists are put off watercolour painting because they find it difficult to master the techniques and expect instant success. Often, the challenge comes from choosing subjects that are too advanced for their current skill level. In this book, David aims to bring a sense of fun back into the learning process. He believes strongly that art should be enjoyed, that it's a powerful antidote to depression and illness, and like nature, has a therapeutic effect on our well-being and stress levels. David says that painting has been a great source of comfort in his own life, and the joy it brings him is sheer gold. We begin with Foundations, Exploring Watercolour. This chapter covers the essential principles of pure watercolour, foundations every artist, no matter what their experience level, needs to understand. It starts with several simple, basic exercises designed to help you to get to know what really makes watercolour work. Even simple subjects need a little planning. The first step is deciding what to paint, and it helps to choose something with a clear, strong focal point. You'll also want to mix each colour just before you start, because watercolour dries quickly and some techniques work by blending colours right on the paper. On the right hand page you can see a straightforward pen and wash sketch on cartridge paper. David walks us through how he created it, and down in the bottom right hand corner he illustrates a fun splattering technique that adds speckled texture and interest to the foreground. Being able to handle washes with confidence is a crucial part of mastering watercolour. David highlights 5 key tips for success with washes, and he illustrates this with helpful photographs. He also explains how you can often rescue a painting by adding watercolour pencils into your washes. For example, in the painting of Dryswing Castle, the details are outlined using a dark watercolour pencil, giving it definition and depth. You might be eager to dive into a full colour palette, but David strongly recommends starting with a few monochrome paintings first. Working with just one colour frees you from worrying about colour choices and lets you focus on the values, how light or dark each part of your composition is. Here are two examples: Kent Estuary painted in indigo and Yorkshire Lane painted in burnt umber. David takes us through both paintings step by step, and I have to say I really love these. They have a kind of magical quality. I even feel a temptation to add a few silver and gold highlights, but just sparingly. Texture in watercolour can come in two ways: visually, where we create the illusion using different techniques, or physically, by adding mediums and materials to build a 3D effect. There are lots of watercolour paints on the market with highly granulating pigments, which give a speckled, gritty look as the pigment particles settle into the paper. These paints can really enhance a painting with very little effort from the artist. One of David's favourites is Lunar Blue by Daniel Smith, which funnily enough is one of my favourites too. From working in monochrome is just a small step to adding one or two more colours. Keeping your palette limited like this helps maintain harmony in your paintings while you continue to build your skills. Harmonious colours are those that sit close together on the same part of the colour wheel. In the painting on the left, you might notice David's use of French ultramarine, but he's only used it to sparingly darken other colours where he felt it was needed. This painting is of the old bridge at Ronda in Puente Viejo in Spain. The bridge spans a very deep chasm and it plunges down a very long way. I've been lucky enough to visit Ronda and walk across that bridge, and I can assure you the scenery there is truly breathtaking. It was pre-pandemic, and I have looked for my photographs, but I can't seem to find them. I'd have loved to have shared them with you. On the right-hand page, we have an illustration of a painting David created using a warm harmonious colour palette called Windy Day in the Pennines, and on the bottom right we have Farm in the Crags, where David has chosen a cool harmonious palette. Now we're moving into a full colour painting. David usually selects a base colour for many of his mixes, as he finds this helps keep a sense of unity throughout the work. French ultramarine is a favourite. It's a great mixer and can create a wide range of tones. David outlines 5 key starting points for working confidently in full colour. The painting Summer in the Wye Valley is a perfect example, offering a great opportunity to explore how to approach those lush summer greens. He's included a helpful illustrated guide showing you exactly how to mix these, and if you'd like to try copying this painting yourself, David has thoughtfully listed the step-by-step process for you to follow. One really lovely watercolour technique is wet in wet, where you add fresh paint into an area that's still wet on the paper. This lets you create soft misty effects, perfect for painting distant trees or atmospheric backgrounds. The tricky part is knowing exactly when the first layer of paint is ready to accept the next. I really love David's painting of Little Neath River. You can clearly see how effective this technique can be. And did you spot one of David's favourite colours in there? Yes, Lunar Blue makes a beautiful appearance in the river. Dropping a colour into a wet wash is a technique David uses in almost every painting. It allows you to mix colours directly on the paper rather than in the palette. The key is to drop the colour in early and then leave the paint alone to dry. David stresses it's very important not to fiddle. Across these 2 pages, David has illustrated several colour combinations that you may find useful. A glaze is a transparent wash that you apply over part of your painting that's already dry. It's a really effective way to suggest things like falling rain, warm up cool areas and cool down warmer parts, or even add shadows. You need to use plenty of water when applying it to keep the look transparent. I once sat and watched a demonstration by the artist Charles Evans, who took a cool landscape painting and literally covered the entire thing with a wash of quinacridone gold. It completely changed the colour temperature of the piece. It was quite theatrical to watch, and resulted in lots of gasps from the audience. In David's book, he's illustrated showing the glazing technique on a mountain scene. On the left you see the original. In the centre there's a warm glaze of permanent alizarin crimson, and on the far right a cooling glaze of French ultramarine blue. It's a wonderful illustration to see how glazing can transform a painting. By now, David hopes you've had a chance to try out several watercolour paintings, either by copying his examples in the book or working from your own images. Before we move on, he would like to guide you on how to gather good source material. Ideally, this should come from your own reference, sketches and photographs taken on location. Sketches are really helpful for making colour notes and capturing weather conditions, since photographs can often flatten colours. So it's best to use both if you can. David also shares practical advice about the equipment you'll need, and he often adds a touch of humour to his sketches, which makes the process even more memorable. The beauty of sketching in colour is that you're not only recording the colours you see, but also quietly learning how to handle watercolour as you go. And this is exactly how David learned to paint. Of course, it's easy to snap a quick photograph of the scene, but you'll discover so much more about your subject by sketching it. Plus, you're out in nature with no pressure to create a masterpiece. And if things don't go quite according to plan, well, you can always blame the wind, the cold, or even an overly curious sheep. I used to work for an agricultural charity, and the farmers would always say to me, a sheep wakes up in the morning and thinks, what method can I find to kill myself today? Joking apart, if you ever see a sheep lying on its back with its feet in the air, try and right it, try and gently roll it over back on its legs, and if you can't, see if you can find the farmer, because they will die if they're left like that. Anyway, back to David's lovely book. For colour sketching, David prefers using half pans. They're far less fiddly than tubes when you're out on location. His preferred brand is Daniel Smith watercolour paints because they activate instantly. Some brands take a fair bit of scrubbing before they produce any colour. And more recently, David's also been enjoying Daniel Smith's watercolour sticks, which offer yet another convenient way to work on location. Throughout this book you'll find sketches and alfresco paintings created with all sorts of materials. Painting from nature out in the open air is deeply rewarding, and there's no rule saying you have to finish the painting on location. If you look at the watercolour of the farmhouse near Dinas Mordwy, for example, it was drawn quickly in pencil with just a few colours washed in, giving it a wonderful sense of spontaneity. I really like this one. It has a semi-abstract quality. And David has listed 5 key points for successful outdoor painting. Rarely will you stumble across an outdoor scene with a perfect ready-made composition, which is why making changes to what is in front of you is such an important skill, and this is where sketches are incredibly helpful. Make sure you have a strong focal point. You might even introduce something new that feels right for the scene, perhaps a tractor in the distance or a grazing animal. It also helps to create a lead-in towards your focal point, such as a winding path, or as in the painting at the top right, a furrowed field. And don't forget the rule of thirds, placing your centre of interest about 1/3 in from one of the sides and 1/3 in from the top or bottom can really strengthen your composition. David gives some very helpful advice on using masking fluid to preserve light areas. His preference is PBO drawing gum because it's gentle on the paper. You can even lay in a light wash, let it dry and then apply the masking fluid over the top. When the gum is removed, the underlying wash stays put, unlike some brands that lift the paint away as well. Masking fluid often leaves a hard edge, but you can soften that later with a damp brush or a light glaze. On the right-hand page, David's used masking fluid in his painting Cottage Below Carn Foy, and he provides clear step-by-step instructions so you can follow along and have a go yourself. So that wraps up part 1 of my review of David's incredibly inspiring book, but the journey's only just getting started. In part 2, we'll dive into developing your own painting style, discover fresh and exciting techniques, master composition and bring light, space and water to life on the page. David also shows you how to experiment with mixed media and gouache. So I'm sure that you won't want to miss part 2, so if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell. Meanwhile, in the description below you can find out more about David Bellamy and his work. I've put links to David's website and his blog, and there's also a couple of demos of him painting on YouTube, plus his Facebook page. And if you can't wait, you'll also find links to where you can buy your own copy of his wonderful book. I hope you found this review helpful. If you did, please give the video a like. It really helps YouTube share it with others who enjoy art books too. I post a new art book review every week, so if you'd like to see more, do consider subscribing. I truly appreciate it. If you found the review helpful, please feel free to leave a comment below. I reply to every one. And if there's an art book you'd like me to feature, just let me know. I'll do my best to review it for you. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy painting.